Hi, I'm Susan Guthrie from PermanentWeightLossAfter40.com. Today I'd like to share a recipe with you that is gluten-free, dairy-free, and a great comfort food. It's become one of my family's favorites. It's using spaghetti squash instead of pasta, but it's called chicken bacon Alfredo. So it's that comfort, creamy comfort food from the Alfredo sauce that we haven't been eating because it's so high in dairy, and not having the pasta because we don't eat wheat anymore. But I think you'll find that this is a very tasty dish. So one of the first challenges with this is a spaghetti squash. What do you do with it? So you can find these at your local market, and the easiest way I found to prepare these is to take a small paring knife and score it all the way around. And you may have to go around it more than once to get your edges. After you've scored it with your paring knife, take your big chef's knife, and it just slides right in and makes it so much easier to cut it in half. So you'll cut it all the way in half. Open it up, and I keep an extra bowl by the side to put the seeds in. So you're going to take the seeds and scoop the strings and the seeds out of the middle of the squash. Then you're going to turn them cut side down on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. And these are delicata squash, and you need a larger squash so that you have enough. This is actually your filling for your sauce. So today I'm going to use 3 small delicata squash. Now if you can't find the delicata squash, and sometimes I can't, I will use an acorn squash instead. And you just do the same thing, just cut it in half, take the seeds out, put it upside down on your baking sheet. See, there's the inside of the delicata squash. Just make sure you pull all the seeds out of it. Place the squash in the oven at 425 degrees, and we're going to set 2 timers, one for 20 minutes for the delicata squash, and then another one for 40 minutes for the spaghetti squash. Now while our squash is baking, we're also going to bake our chicken. So you can use a pound, pound and a half of chicken tenders, or you can use a pound or pound and a half of chicken breasts and cut them in thin strips. And just place them in a baking pan. Then we're going to drizzle them with olive oil. And sprinkle them with salt and pepper. And just a little bit of dried basil. And then once again, I'll just mix it together. So once we've coated them with the seasonings, then we'll put them in the oven and set our timer for 20 minutes. So after 20 minutes, your chicken will be done, and you'll take it out of the oven, place it on your cutting board, where we'll slice it into bite-sized pieces to be added to our sauce after we get that prepared. Then check your smaller squash at about 25 or 30 minutes to make sure that they are done, and you take them out of the oven before the spaghetti squash will be completely done. The easiest way to tell if your spaghetti squash or any of your squashes are done you can push on the outer skin and it'll just give a little bit. It'll be a little bit soft, and then you'll know that it's done. Whereas, see, the spaghetti squash is still quite hard. So we'll take the delicati squash off and put it on our cutting board, and then let our spaghetti squash continue to cook for a while. Let your squash cool a little while so you can just handle it, because it's quite hot. And then once you can hold on to it a little bit, you're just going to scoop it out from the skin. And you'll do this with all of your squash, and then I just put it in an extra bowl because we'll add it to our pan for our sauce. You would like for your spaghetti squash to be tender, but not too tender, because if you let it cook too long, it will get mushy and watery, and we want it to be more like the texture of pasta noodles or spaghetti. So once it cools a little bit after we've made our sauce, we'll go ahead and prepare it to add to our sauce. Now, I've already cooked 5 slices of bacon, chopped them, and then cooked them in my skillet. And we're going to use the fat from the bacon as the base for our sauce. So we're going to now add our delicati squash. And all of our seasonings that I've already measured out. And 2 cloves of garlic, crushed garlic. And add your canned coconut milk. A tip on the canned coconut milk: it works much better if it's room temperature, and you always need to shake it very vigorously in order to get it to combine, because the water will separate from the coconut cream. And you want to use the mixture of the two. And make sure you use canned coconut. You can always find your canned coconut milk in your natural food section of your grocery store, or the Indian food section of the grocery store. When you have your sauce thoroughly mixed together, turn your heat down to low and let it cook for about 5 minutes. And always, with any recipe, if it doesn't look quite right, or if it looks too thick, you could always add a little bit more coconut milk to it. This is looking nice and thick. It'll mix nicely with our spaghetti squash. We'll let that simmer for about 5 minutes while we prep our spaghetti squash. To prep your spaghetti squash, just take a fork and pull the squash away from the skin, just like this. You continue to do this until you have it all pulled from the skin. After you've let your sauce simmer for about 5 minutes, then add your chicken back into the sauce. Now we'll just add our sauce to our spaghetti squash, our bowl. Take your bacon and sprinkle it on top. And dinner is served. Chicken bacon Alfredo, gluten-free, dairy-free. What I love about eating this is it's so tasty and delicious, but you don't have that stuffed feeling after you finish it. For a complete copy of the recipe, visit www.permanentweightlossafter40.com, and you'll find the complete directions for this recipe. Thanks for joining me. Again, this is Susan Guthrie with permanentweightlossafter40.com.